Hi Chris, how are you?
All is well. Good evening, Rod. Here we are. It's episode 183. It's the 5th of August, which is my wedding anniversary for those interested. And it's 2025 and the weather's pretty good. Nice summer's evening.
Oh, I'm very glad that the weather's pretty good. It's okay here as well. I was in Scotland at the weekend and the weather was okay. But
they've got storms, haven't they?
On the way back on Sunday, all it was warnings about Storm Floris was coming and batten down the hatches, basically.
Yeah, we've had some winds, but they seem to have got away now. But we are nowhere near impacted like many other people, thankfully.
And I'm going to correct you. It's episode 184, not 183.
I thought I said 84. Apologies.
Shall we get straight into it?
Let's do it. Follow up.
So follow up, and in keeping with our nation watch about how people are treating Apple, Japan has now mandated that Apple must allow third-party app stores and payment systems. I wonder if they would have been looking anywhere about that.
Is this how nations are treating Apple or how Apple are treating nations? Because if Apple just did this everywhere, this would just all go away, you know. So yeah, Japan mandates that Apple must allow third-party app stores and payment systems. Come on, Apple, just do this already. This is stupid.
It's going to be painful, isn't it? So this has got to happen by December the 18th, I presume. I mean, I'm scrolling through the article and I forgot to look. Are they going to appeal this? Is it too late to appeal this? They've probably appealed this several times already, knowing Apple. But anyway, they need to get on with it by December the 18th.
Just need to do this worldwide. Stop it.
It's not happening. Not happening, bro, as they say in How I Met Your Mother. Yeah.
What's the saying? Like they're going to die on the hill for this or something to do it, you know, as slowly and painfully as possible. It's just ridiculous.
Well, we're going to talk about Apple's financials later, and maybe we'll take a look at how the whole services revenue thing is going. And with one eye on what's happening with Google and all their lost billions of income that they're going to have from Google from not paying for that, this is probably of concern to them, particularly as they also go, the AI thing's not going well. You've got the Department of Justice stuff coming up that's looking to antitrust with them. So they've got a lot going on a legal front, but I'm with you. They should maybe take a win here and just do it, and then people would be happy with Apple. And we've said a million times before, most people will probably just choose to stay within the Apple ecosystem.
I think be the bigger person in the room, take the hit, but equally you could time when you take the hit. So you go, right, we're going to do this worldwide. Oh, look, we've done it in a quarter where we've just released new iPhones. So actually our revenue is going to stay massive and it's all fine. And like you say, not everybody overnight is just suddenly going to walk away from it. So I don't know. Maybe they've got some crazy spreadsheet that tells them something differently. But come on, Apple, just get on with it. Just EU policy everywhere. Job done. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, I agree. This applies to Google as well. It's not just Apple, but
and so it should. It's got to be. Everybody has.
They have a duopoly. They need to allow for these things. So, and then we'll see some malicious compliance, as we've no doubt seen in the EU as well. So I agree. They should get on with this. Should we move on?
Let's do it.
So next up, this is leaked in iOS 26. The reason this is follow-up is because it's all about iOS 26. It's not news at the moment. It's all follow-up as people find out things in iOS 26. And apparently, as with the maps, which you're going to anticipate what your normal commute is and all this kind of stuff, I haven't seen that because I'm not running the beta on my phone. Have you seen that on your phone?
I don't really have a commute, so I've not seen it either yet. But I will have a commute at some point. But I thought that was a feature already in Maps, and I never really saw it previously. But they've re-touted it again, haven't they?
They have, and I didn't see it when I was briefly running the beta. Anyway, this is going to integrate with your home, so potentially it will get used to. If the house is a bit cold when you're out, and it'll preemptively turn on your heating or your cooling if you're in a place that requires cooling. We don't tend to need that so much in the UK. So adaptive temperature hidden iOS 26. Woo!
I'm not sure this is a feature for me. I do have my thermostat in home, but I like to be in control of it. I don't want it kicking in all the time. I don't know. I get the idea, but I don't know if this is good or bad for global warming.
Yeah, I had a Google Nest. I had two Google Nests, in fact, for a while, running the smarts in my house, and never once was it smart. It was either on or it was off, and after a while, I just decided I was taking control of it anyway, so I turned off all the smarts. And my current thermostat, which is also one that I can boost myself from my phone, it works like an old temperature-controlled one. When the temperature goes below a certain thing, the heating clicks on, and that's really all I care about.
Yep, exactly the same as you. I used to have some Google Nest, got rid of them, installed a Honeywell thing, and it's fine. The only thing I wish I could boost the water in the Home app. You have to go into their app to do anything with the water, which I think, come on, surely the home app should have water boosty function by now.
It depends, doesn't it? I guess if they expose that function, you clearly don't have a combi boiler. Then that you must have something.
I do not have a combi boiler.
For American friends, this is probably a peculiarity of UK heating systems, where there's two main types of boiler. There are others, of course, but the combi boiler, which sort of heats water on demand, and then the other kind of boiler, which heats up a hot water tank and maintains a hot water tank, normally in the loft to give it pressure of houses. Yep. And I used to have a standard flat-out boiler, which had two sides to it, so you'd have the hot water side and the rest of it. Whereas my combi, has a large hot water tank built within it, so you don't actually need to have that separate hot water tank, and it's nominally more efficient as you're not heating things twice. But of course, if it goes wrong, you lose both sides of it. And it's rare you have the hot water side built into any of these apps.
Yeah, so we just haven't replaced it because the cost to replace was high, and the actual maintenance cost of what we're spending is relatively nothing. So I did inquire about this, should we do something, and it was basically deemed of it's probably not worth it until the boiler goes pop, and so that's where we're at.
And that's probably more eco, and we should all be moving to heat pumps anyway.
Yeah, that was my next place of, do we get ground source heat pump and actually just skip the combi stage and go actually to where we should be?
I think that's probably a good idea. Anyway, you're going to need air conditioning the way global warming is going. Moving on, Google has lost yet another antitrust case, or it's one it's already lost, in fact. So there's already been a decision in the US against Google v. Epic. This is fairly similar to what has already happened with Apple. Except Google were also not allowing Epic to have separate payments systems within the Play Store. So now they've got to do what Apple did and allow this to happen for separate payment. So again, only a good thing.
Yeah, agreed. This should just be law worldwide. Tick, done.
Yeah, I did find it interesting that the language from Google is exactly what Apple says. This decision will significantly harm user safety, limit choice, and undermine innovation that is central to the Android ecosystem. I mean, if you took Android out of that and put Apple in, that's exactly the same nonsense that they're talking.
Which is right, mobile. Job done.
It's just like, wow. I mean, computers, we said this before, computers are a thing. People know how to buy things on computers. People get scammed on computers that are, all the time. People get scammed within the app stores all the time. So unfortunately, this isn't helping.
No, this isn't helping. You just need to give people choice and freedom.
Yeah, you do. Speaking of choice and freedom, we're all being directed to use AI more and more in our lives, and I just thought this was an interesting article from Ars Technica earlier this week, saying that only 1/3 of Americans have used AI for work. Huh.
I was really surprised by this. I could see it. Well, I guess it depends. How you measure all workers, because some people obviously will do manual labour, or they're working in hospitals, and you've got different styles where it's useful. But equally, I would expect this maybe a year ago, whereas I'd expect it to have doubled by now, because I think it's becoming so more prevalent. It's easily accessible. There's lots of free services. It's just becoming more and more readily available and better. So I'm surprised it's as low as what it is.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. You'd need to divide this among population types. If you're for want of a better phrase, white-collar worker who sits in front of a computer all day, chances are you'll have used it, particularly as Microsoft's forcing it on you if you're a Windows user.
Yeah, and most search engines are forcing it upon you as well. So, it's not becoming, it's not optional, is it?
No, it's quite hard to get away from, certainly. As you say, you stick in a Google or a Bing search for whoever does that, and you're going to have this stuff shoved in your face.
Does Bing still exist?
I think Bing still exists, yeah.
If a tree falls in a forest and nobody's there, who would know?
Presumably Copilot works on Bing. I mean,
could you imagine if they turned off Bing and nobody noticed?
Well, DuckDuckGo would notice, wouldn't it? There you go. There's a bit of Bing for the YouTube watchers.
It's still there.
It's still there. So if I search for something...
You've just doubled their monthly usage stats.
How to code in Manim. It looks relatively relevant, but
It looks like Google.
a Google search would... So Bing's still a thing in news that is not... So I'm back to the article. Yeah, I guess this kind of makes sense. But I wonder, of those third of people that have used it, how many have actually found it useful?
And did they fact check it? Because actually what they got, was it actually correct? Would be interesting.
Yeah. So one to keep an eye on. It'll be interesting to see how the LLM penetration goes, because I'm still of the school that this is a bubble that's going to burst.
I think it is. And I think whilst the .com bubble burst, it was here to stay. So I think there is that. I think it's going to burst, but it will be here with us now.
Yeah, so Amazon is still here to say, but everybody else died. So I think there might be a victor from this.
Yeah, that's fair. At the moment, it is looking like OpenAI.
And another reason that this could be an issue is that even Sam Altman, so this is an article in CNET from July the 30th, he says you shouldn't use ChatGPT as your chatbot or therapist. So, be careful what you put into these things. And the other thing is they're keeping logs. And he's not sure about that either, because imagine going back and look at your very early search history from 5 years ago. I mean, people are falling in love with chatbots. They'd like to marry chatbots. They're putting all their relationship advice in there. They're seeking legal and financial advice. There's a lot to go wrong there.
I was listening to a podcast recently where somebody uploaded all their financial status, bank accounts, and ChatGPT, actually I'm not going to say ChatGPT, an AI bot, because I don't think it was ChatGPT, to be fair, was then giving them financial advice based upon this information of where they should invest and put their money. So, that's quite a dice to roll.
I'm horrified by that. And equally, if you're putting your money in there, presumably you're asking for health advice as well. And if it's telling you to go off and eat rocks or put glue in your pizza, that's not going to go well. You're going to end up very poor and very ill.
I completely agree with you, but I guess it might get more right than the average person for investing, for example. I don't know.
There you go. There could be a trial for the show, Chris. Go and put all your financials into ChatGPT and ask it what to invest in, and we'll come back in a year and see how you've gone.
Well, how about I go? I've got £500. What should I invest it in, and try it?
£500. That's a decent gamble.
Well, you know,
it's only money, mate. It's only money.
Could pay off. You never know.
Let's change the subject quickly before you commit to something that you don't really want to do. We talked last week about VPNs and the new online sort of safety act that was sweeping the UK, where people they called it a porn act as much as anything else, for people to register to get the porn, and then they were putting their details and passing on passport and pictures of their faces into who knows where, frankly, to verify those things. Well, it's coming to Xbox now as well. If you want to play 18-year-old games on Xbox, you're also going to have to prove your identity. Yet another example of why this is a bad idea, I think, because you're giving all this stuff to Microsoft, who presumably knows who you are anyway, but it's via a third party.
Yes, never sounds good when they're going to back it off to a third party, does it?
No, not at all. Apparently the third party that they're using is called Yachty, which isn't one that can be fooled by the Death Stranding screenshot, which we talked about last week. But this is a worrying trend, because apparently it's true for Spotify as well. If you want to listen to over the age of 18 music, you're going to have to prove that you're over the age of 18 to listen to music, play your computer games, visit something. And this is getting perilously close to online censorship at this point.
It is, and I often find with my children coming up to their young teens, actually they want to play stuff a little bit beyond their age. And you've probably been through this too. We recently went through it as kids, where we'd watch videos, films that were, 15s, and we weren't 15 yet. So it's really, I don't know. I think there's a balance to be had here.
There is. I vividly remember the first VHS tape that I hired was RoboCop, and it was an 18, and I was not 18.
RoboCop, there you go. I have no idea why I watched it. And we used to get a lot of dubbed films, if you remember those, where basically swear words were dubbed out to be non-swear words, and you had a slightly alternative track. I don't know. I feel we're going to have such a police state in one way. I don't know. I remember I didn't realise this was. I just assumed when we spoke about it the other week, this was largely for adult websites, not just for your gaming platform.
This is it. I mean, like I say, the repercussions are, what if you want to read a book that has adult themes? I mean, would you censor Lady Chatterley's Lover? Back in the turn of the century when that became a thing, you probably would in this Online Safety Act. So this isn't that different from the Great Firewall of China or all those other things, if you follow it through to its natural conclusion. And the unintended consequences of this is you're teaching a generation of tech-savvy youngsters to put on VPNs to go out and get what they can. So what's next? You ban the VPN? That's going to have an impact on my workplace.
Yeah, or can you only have a VPN if you're 18? I don't know. It's bonkers.
It's a problem, and again, I don't think this law has been well implemented.
No, I think the intention is probably good, but the practicalities and the details of implementation could be better.
Not great. 2 brief Mastodon stories, the veracity of which may have to be checked because they're on Mastodon and not from a verified website. But I just think it's interesting. This first one, we talked about T, which had been vibe coded. It was the sort of allegation that was slung at it. The women's dating website that was meant to have a higher proportion of safety built into it. They've had a second data breach since we talked about it last time. But I just thought this was interesting by this Mastodon commenter. The breach this time includes private messages, so that's not good. That's what people look like, what their passwords are and things, and also what they're saying, because of course it does, as this commenter says. And apparently it requires T to upload a selfie to prove that they are a woman. And I'm just like, oh, that's really not very good.
No, it's not good at all. Oh, it's just,
It's really quite bad. No screenshots, anonymous, and verified women. So the way that they're verifying women is by asking them to upload pictures of themselves. What could go wrong?
I'm sorry, this is just stupid.
Yeah, particularly, and to be clear, there is a link in this article to the second data breach on 404 Media, so there is actually a website behind this as well. But there's news today about Elon Musk's Grok product, which is his LLM, actually encouraging spicy selfies or generate spicy AI generated art. So it will do nudes of people for you, basically, if you ask it to, and doing whatever you want to. So you take these things. If there's a big database of women's pictures, you upload a picture to something like Grok, and there you go. You've got the perfect bait for whatever you want to do, and it's very, very grim indeed.
Yeah, I'm not loving some of this AI generated videos. I've seen quite a few examples of it in recent days, and yeah, it blows my mind. Even though I was aware of some of it, it's just so readily available, and no need to pay or sign up, and people can generate a lot for free. It's a bit worrying.
Yeah, so I will put a link in the show notes as well, but for the YouTube viewers, there you go. Elon Musk's AI company has officially rolled out Grok Imagine, XAI's image and video generator, and quite happy to do spicy. I won't click the link on that down below, but not great.
Agreed.
Not great at all. And then the second not great thing, and this comes from Riley Testit, we've talked about before. He's the developer of Delta, the very good Nintendo emulator they can get for iOS. He got in his news app, Apple News, July 28th, and as he circled himself in the screenshot, there's an advert for F1 the movie built into the news app.
WTF?
WTF is this Apple, as he says.
Like, what? It was always weird because it said like Apple Subscriber Edition or something stupid in that top corner. But to say presented by the F1 movie, sorry, it's getting more egregious as Apple go on with it.
It's absolutely grim. That what's next? Are we going to get this in the settings app? Hey, once you finish setting this up, you'll have complimentary 20% off to see F1 the movie. I mean, where does this end, Apple?
When you first boot up your phone in the morning. Did you know the F1 movie's out? Ding!
But we have knocked Microsoft since Windows 11 has come along for having all this advertising in the start menu, the fundamental way you operate your computer. And now they're putting this in their apps. Would they let Spotify put this in there? Would they let Epic put this in there? How is it right that Apple is allowed to?
I don't like any of it. I don't agree with that. I can't. The reason we went to Apple was to get away from these kinds of things. I think it's awful.
I agree. It is awful. And last story for follow-up, you've just put in there, just before we went live, everything new in iOS 26 Beta 5.
Yeah, and normally through the beta stage, and we've touched on this, you get quite a lot of changes to the betas. They tweak things, they get feedback. Given that they've changed so much of the OS, every beta that comes out has literally nothing in it. No major changes, which is what you'd expect at this point. Like, they've changed so much, and there's been a lot of critical feedback about how readable or not readable, legible some of the text is, and some of the screens need tweaking. But we don't seem to be getting anything coming through. I find it really bizarre. So that's what I was going to say. Here's the changes in the latest beta that came out today in Beta 5, and there will be a public beta probably later this week. Some of the changes are good, but there's just so little, and I'm really shocked because it doesn't feel like they've got a lot of this beta right, and yet they don't really seem to be correcting it. Or I'd be happy if they were playing with more things and just trying things out and getting some crowdsourced feedback. So just find it super interesting that, I don't know, it's I was expecting a lot of change, especially by Beta 5, but if we just had a few minor iterations basically from where we were at Beta 1.
Yeah, I agree with you. And they're not backing off on how bad the liquid glass stuff is. I mean, some screenshots and some uses that I've seen on my iPad, and I know you've shared a couple with me as well from iOS, are illegible. You can't see the text over toolbars and things like that as you begin to scroll. The buttons are badly designed, and I see in this beta, it's interesting, the 9 to 5 Mac article that we're looking at, they've introduced more liquid glass elements, which are less opaque than they were in the previous betas. So the little minus buttons in this example to delete apps from your home screen now have a liquid glass element. I've got to say, and they also show some sheets, some icons below that, and they've changed the airdrop icon as well. And that's a dreadful icon. And this is a theme I'm seeing in iOS 26, is they're moving to these sort of light blue icons, highly stylized. It looks vaguely like an envelope. But they all look the same to me. I barely recognize mail as being the mail icon.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you in that the iconography isn't really great. They're all a bit similar and a bit smushed together, I think. I don't know. I really expected a lot of change. And I was reflecting on this today. I was driving in my car. And actually, I think CarPlay is probably one of the platforms that's come the best out of the liquid glass update, because it actually looks pretty good. It's got all the love it needed. I think it works really well. tvOS, same. And that's, I think, because it's quite a small use case, largely on a black background, and they haven't done that much to it for tvOS or CarPlay. But it actually looks pretty decent, and both of them needed a little bit of love. That's my thoughts. I think the iPad is then third on that list, and then at some point you've got the phone and the Mac, but they're the systems that people are using all the time. They've got the big user bases, but they don't seem to have got it right. I think Apple have misstepped here. They should have done iOS first or last, I'd pick one, and then done the Mac next year. But they've tried to do it all in one go, and I think it's been a big misstep because they're just not giving each of the platforms the attention they require.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's needs to be a bit more pushback on this, because I think there's people going to have serious accessibility and usability problems with this. And I agree with what ATP said. Certainly on the iPad and the Mac, it feels slow. And I don't know what your findings are on your phone, but Marco Arment was talking about he had the latest generation of iPhone, and it feels slow. And my iPad does feel a bit sluggish when I've used it. My Mac does feel a bit. I had a full-on, I mean, I'd expect this, I'm running a beta. On my Mac, I had a full-on system crash today, where it crashed absolutely everything and booted me back into the login screen. I haven't had one of them in a beta in a very long time. Apps die, but it doesn't kill the whole interface.
Yeah, so I do think this latest beta has got a little bit quicker. Certainly feels a little smoother, but I've seen a lot of sluggishness I would completely agree with. But I've only just installed Beta 5 on a couple of things, so too early to comment, but it does feel a little quicker.
Yeah, and again, they're betas. You'd expect this. That there is debug code running in the background. They hammer the batteries. They work the processes a lot harder, and we warn people don't install them. But having installed them, it's within our rights to comment on them as they improve. So it'll be interesting to see how Beta 5 goes for you on your phone and me on my iPad and on my Mac, to see if there are sort of any improvements in there. But yeah, not the greatest beta season, and not for the normal reasons, which is it's unstable, but other than that, it's quite exciting to do new things. We're not loving it, really, are we?
I think there's some good, but there's a lot that isn't right, and it just doesn't feel like they've really fully baked what they were doing before they released it. You know, there's always talk about your content being king, but yet they keep putting gradients. I was editing an email the other day, and I was like, why is my name in grey at the bottom? And it was because there was a gradient applied to the content of my email, because there was a toolbar off to the right, but it's not obvious, and they're putting stuff over your content. It's just wrong in my view, but I don't know. Maybe we'll learn to love it.
This is interesting. You're almost as worked up a bit this as I normally am. This is changed times, Chris.
Yeah, and normally I like Apple design. I like the new hotness, but this I'm struggling with. I think they've gone too far with telling me how important my content is, but yet they keep putting stuff over the top of it, and it looks worse.
Yeah, and I'm just going to recommend go off and listen to last week's ATP, where John Siracusa goes on a whole piece about how user interfaces used to have a science behind them. You did usability testing. The way that you designed elements was, how quickly can you click with the mouse? How big is the touch target? All that kind of stuff. Scroll bars should be usable, and we've moved from that. We've moved to, does it look good, and does it function well, and is it backed by science? And without repeating it, I thought it was an excellent sort of discussion that they had on ATP, and I don't think we should rehash it, but I'm very much with him.
I completely agree, and they've done the same on the talk show. They had a person who used to work at Apple on, who used to design icons, and they've said exactly the same thing. We should be using UI designers and not brand designers. this is a UI. It's designed for user input, not just to look pretty.
We have decades now of working with computers and an expectation of how they work. Windows, Mac, Linux, Unix, Amiga OS, Spectrum, whatever it was. You had an expectation of how they'd work, and I think Liquid Glass is breaking that in the same way that Aero broke that on Windows back in the Windows 8 day. So,
yep, no, agreed.
Moving on, better news for Apple. They've shipped their 3 billionth iPhone. That, and as The Verge says here, that is a lot of iPhones.
We are moving to news now out of follow-up, but yes, 3 billion iPhones. It's incredible, isn't it? And, every time they get to the next billion, they're doing it way quicker than it took them to do the first billion. Their pace is increasing because obviously more and more people have got phones, and more people then need to upgrade them as they can't do things, or the storage maxes out. So it's amazing how they've got to 3 billion iPhones. It's just bonkers.
Yeah, sorry for jumping to news without talking about it. It just felt like it flowed straight into it, though.
Sorry.
No, you've nothing to apologise for. It was my fault. Yeah, 3 billion is a lot of phones. What's the population of the planet? 8 or 9 billion, something like that currently?
Yeah, but obviously a lot of us have had multiple phones. So, it's a big number. It's very impressive.
Yeah, my point was that if you take Android into account as well, which one manufacturer wouldn't have shifted, well, maybe Samsung, they ship a lot of phones, but it's a huge amount of devices that are either in people's hands or taken at landfill.
Yeah, that's fair. So it took them 9 years to get to 1 billion, and then 5 years to get to 2 billion, and then I think 4 years to get to 3 billion. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting points in this article from The Verge about even Eddie Q saying you might not need an iPhone 10 years from now. What's that going to be then? Is it contact lenses? Is it glasses? Is it Vision Pros? Is it a wearable Pebble-like device that we haven't seen yet? But things are on the move again in this industry, and I think Apple needs to be super careful because BlackBerry sold a lot of phones, and the market slipped out from under them really, really quickly. And
very quickly.
And once upon a time, the horse and carriage was the dominant thing, and that didn't last very long either.
Oh, that would have been a good segue for our car corner.
It would have been.
Which we will circle back to.
We'll circle back to it. Anyway, I suppose, well done, Apple. 3 billion phones. I guess I've had 8 of them myself, or 9 of them myself, for many I've had.
I don't know. I'd hate to think how many phones I've bought.
Yeah, you're doing it in your head. I'll let you finish that thought, and then we'll let. There you go. His fingers are out, listeners. You won't be able to see this, but they're on the move.
I've had about 11.
11 phones. Wow. I'll let you talk about the next story, and I'll try and calculate mine. So this is Dropbox dropping their passwords app.
Yeah, so users of Dropbox Passwords, which I'll be honest, I didn't know this was a thing. Dropbox are discontinuing it, and they're giving users less than a month, which, I mean, obviously I assume they've got some stats on how many people are using this, but that seems a little short. And then it's going to become view only in the mobile app. And then on September the 11th, the mobile app will stop working completely. So they've been really aggressive with getting people off, which I think is wrong. Look, and I don't think it should be a year, but 4 to 6 weeks doesn't feel like long enough, especially if you're using it in a corporation. I just think this is not the right way to do it. This should be a 3-month thing as a minimum. Be kind to users, do it in the right way.
So real-time follow-up, I've had 12 iPhones.
Wow.
That's my rough count in my head. That's not counting ones I've bought for other people in the family.
I didn't go into that.
Yeah, I 100% agree that this is a poor show by Dropbox. Dropbox is a funny service because for a little while there, it was the only way you could sync files on your Mac. And when it was new and fresh and interesting, and I religiously used Dropbox, it was a very reliable service. And then they branched out into document management. You could have Dropbox Paper, I think it was called, where they did a bit of office stuff and they did some other things. And then they started things like password manager. They were trying to sell you a service more than just a file syncing utility.
Do you remember they bought Mailbox?
They did buy Mailbox, which was a great app.
And it was a great name for them because they had Dropbox, and then they bought Mailbox. He was like, yes, that makes sense. And then they killed Mailbox at some point.
Yeah, and if you it's a bit like Google, isn't it? They seem to be just killing off products, and getting away from their core product, file syncing, is clearly beginning to damage them. And they did have such a march on that, but now it's a commodity. Google will sell you a syncing service. iCloud's clearly a syncing service. Amazon have similar things. There's lots of options for syncing services. I run my own with an rsync thing in the background. Nextcloud does it. So I think they're probably really struggling, and they're probably expensive. But this is not the way to keep your customers.
I agree. I think they could have just handled this better. Like I say, give people common courtesy. I appreciate you're going to get rid of it, but does it really need to go that quickly? You knew this was coming. Just give people time. Be grown up.
And they're recommending people use 1Password. I wonder if 1Password paid them for that, or the LastPass people when they're knocking on the door.
Surely they've got to have reached out to somebody and go, look, we're killing our service for a nominal fee. We can send you some traffic.
Yeah, I suppose it's probably good for 1Password. And full disclosure, we're both 1Password users, or at least we were, unless you're fully in on Apple Passwords now.
Large Apple Passwords. I've started using it because all my family are using it, and I thought, actually, if I'm going to have to help them, I should probably try it out.
Just you wait till you get your F1 advert in your Passwords app, and then you'll feel like you've made a mistake.
It's going to generate passwords that are all linked to whatever they're peddling that month. This month we're going to peddle, F1. So it's passwords of Red Bull and McLaren and Ferrari. And then next month we're going to peddle the new Tom Hanks film, and the password's going to be set around Tom Hanks's character.
Yeah, you haven't thought this through. We'll keep it with Apple properties. It's not going to put you off to Ferrari. They're going to keep it with, Brad Pitt, or this week your password stick or smoke or whatever. Taron Egerton or somebody that's in what a horrendous thing to consider.
Yeah, awful, isn't it?
Other things that might be horrendous to consider is apparently, this was a story in The Verge today, that Microsoft are going to open source WinUI, which is the windowing system for Windows. And I found this genuinely shocking, and the sub-headline of this is: the developer community is skeptical following the long silent stagnation of the framework and accompanying software development kit. Why would anybody want to run this anyway?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't really understand why Microsoft's doing it, unless they're trying to get the community to help them finish it, because reading the article, Microsoft have been very slow to address bugs and to move it forwards in a meaningful way. And so are they hoping that they're going to crowdsource getting bugs resolved? I don't know if that's what they're trying to achieve here, but it seems strange that they would do this.
Yeah, and it's interesting reading the comments, as you say, as people have been burned because, they've gone from Windows RT to Universal Windows Platform to WinUI to, whatever other software development kits that are there. And they're also building on a slightly unstable platform. I think this is tricky for people. It's not like if they completely open source this that you're going to get a Linux desktop that Linux users are going to choose with WinUI as its desktop environment rather than GNOME or KDE. Apple aren't going to give you an implementation of WinUI on their devices. So other than developer clarity to sort out bugs and all the rest of it, which open source is generally pretty good at, I don't really see the logic behind this, unless they're there going, oh gosh, all this Copilot we're getting to write our WinUI elements is really, really bad, and we've got even more bugs.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't understand why Microsoft are doing this.
I agree. Another thing you and I don't understand, and we talk about it repeatedly, but it's just yet another example of how buying things in the modern age doesn't guarantee you're going to have a service for the rest of your life. And this is a service called Whistle that would allow you to track your pet, and the Whistle have now been bought by another company, and that means everybody who spent real money buying pet trackers will no longer be able to track their pets.
Oh, this is another one of those things, I think, where how a company exits something shows a lot about that company. We've just obviously talked about Dropbox exiting passwords. It's the same here. They've been acquired. Sure, there's got to be a better way than just turning off all these Whistle pet detectors.
Yeah, it's all a bit rubbish, really. I mean, it's a really interesting thing because Mars Pet Care, which is a pet food subsidiary of Mars Incorporated, so where you get your Mars bars from, is the company that acquired Whistle. Who knew Mars also made pet food?
Oh, I had no idea about this. This is like the leftover bits from the factory just going to pet food.
Anyway, if you dropped 150 quid and presumably a subscription, it's all going away. And I just think it's yet another example of, why you need to be super careful when you do these things.
It's so hard, isn't it, to pick the right one?
We've talked before about medical devices being switched off and things like this, and that it's truly terrifying. Imagine buying your, I don't know, contact lenses from some company and them just deciding, all right, they're going to be opaque now from this point on because we're shutting the service down, or something even more fundamental than that. The hip replacement you had on the NHS, we're just going to magnetize the joint and the thing together because you're not allowed to walk anymore because we've been bought by somebody. It's very dystopian.
Yeah, it's not good at all, is it?
It's not good at all. Another thing that I don't think is good, and briefly back to LLMs, is that ChatGPT is going to have a study mode that will guide students to an answer, and there's a spelling mistake in the Engadget article, stay by step. I presume they mean step by step. But this is to help you, if you've got an essay or something like that, it's going to help you guide you to the correct answer. I mean, my initial reading of this is, but an LLM can't guide you to a correct answer because it's quite often wrong. So that's a problem. But more than that, as somebody who works in a university and I see how students use ChatGPT already to do their essays, responses to things and all the rest of it, and how they clearly don't read a lot of the output, this really bothers me.
I'm not surprised they're doing this because the student market's huge for them, isn't it? I'm seeing it with my teenage children. Oh, just AI it, Dad, is a common saying in our house. Not by me, by the way. So I'm not surprised they're doing a study mode, but I kind of agree with you here of, are they actually reading it and checking it? That's the big question, isn't it? It's fine to get some input and stimulate some thought process. I think it's quite healthy. You and I would use Google for that in the past. But you got to go away and check it and read it and understand it, because otherwise you're going to put your name next to it. So that'd be my concern.
Yeah, and I've said it before. I think if you write if you write your paper or you write your dissertation or you write whatever it is you're writing, your outcome for that particular module, ask it to mark it for you. That's useful because it'll give you tips of how to, potentially think about bits of better. But you need to know your topic in order to understand what it's talking about. Just blindly asking it to give you the answers to the thing is not the way. I mean, without going down the rabbit hole of how terrible that is for your future life, for understanding what's actually in front of you when you do things and how you become an expert in things. A critical friend, which you could maybe use it as a useful thing for it, just getting it to do it for you is not.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
So there we go. So moving on, and more bad news for American politicians, which we don't hear a lot about these days, really. It's mostly good news for American politicians, is there's a feature of iOS 26, which apparently is the Republican Party in pieces.
Oh, and I've been caught with this feature a little bit, actually. So I do and I don't like this feature. So in Messages, in iOS 26, up in the top right, you have the filter icon, and it shows you messages by default, and generally that's people like you and me, we will communicate and your message will appear there because you're a known person to me. There's then a filter you can switch down to unknown senders or spam or deleted. I think it's a good idea, but sometimes something goes into unknown messages, and I have a lot of notifications turned off, I admit, but sometimes I miss something and it's gone into unknown senders, and that's my own fault. But because I think I'm running different OSs on my systems, I'm not seeing it all in the same place at the moment. So when I came onto my Mac earlier, an unknown sender just appears in the normal messages section. And this is what they're worried about, is obviously where they're doing political fundraising, they're texting people from an unknown number, and it's then going to go into this area that's outside of your main piece. But I actually quite like this feature. I think it's good, but I think it's going to take time for people to get used to it, and also to know to go and look in there once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's what your definition of spam is, and Apple have been really bad at spam when it comes to the mail app. I think they don't do a great job of filtering it at all. This is easier if that contact isn't somebody you've messaged before, or they're not already in your contacts list, then it's probably spam, isn't it? I mean, we all get the two-factor authentication codes and verification codes, or your pizza's on the way, or whatever it may be, which would be the natural place for something like this. But you could understand who somebody who is aggressively polling to get votes, money, whatever it is out of people, is a kind of spam. It would have people on edge, because once upon a time you'd send a text message and it would go ding and people would have to read it. End.
Yep, and you're straight into somebody, you're straight on their lock screen or whatever it may be, and they're reading your text. They're also really concerned about this. This must be a big way they're generating revenue, though, if they're really concerned about this.
Yeah, so interesting and worth keeping an eye on. I mean, as you say, your experience with it has been mixed so far. Presumably there's a bit of tuning to come. Maybe Beta 5 will fix more things for you. But I got to think, given political pressure from some political parties on Apple and other American tech giants, this might change based on that and not on good technical responses.
Yeah, true. Do you reckon Donald's going to pick up the phone?
He probably already has.
You've made me just want to go and check notifications, because I do have notifications obviously for messages turned on, but I wonder if there's another area where you have to turn it on for unknown senders.
I mean, I like this comment on the article. Anything that prevents politicians from annoying a member of the public has to be a good thing. Unfortunately, the political parties don't think like that.
No, that is true. And just brief update, looking in notifications and settings for messages, there doesn't seem anything different for unknowing senders. So there you go.
Early doors. Back to LLMs and things like that. We have talked repeatedly when they came out on the new Copilot Plus PCs, which at that point were only Snapdragon. I think Intel and AMD both have Copilot versions of that now. You can buy your Windows PCs with Copilot keys on them. Anyway, it appears the enterprises aren't picking them up. And certainly I think you reflected a bit of this previously when you were looking at picking up new laptops in your enterprise, that this wasn't an appealing thing to you, and I guess you weren't alone.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised by this, because Copilot Plus PCs have got Snapdragon, I think, processor in it. Obviously, you need to test your software with it. They're quite expensive, and at the moment, a lot of corporations, I think, don't necessarily need a dedicated PC for it, because they're using a lot of server-side AI capability, and therefore I just don't think these have quite hit the market with the splash they maybe were expecting. I don't know what Windows runs like on it. Like I say, third-party apps and emulation. When I was working at a corporation, we were certainly looking at kicking the tires on this to see, well, actually, what's that going to look like? Is it worth, starting to test our systems with it and go, right, what of our core services do work with it, what don't, and then you can identify job roles where it may be applicable. But it just doesn't seem to be the take up there. It's not taken off as quickly as I'd have thought.
I think this is a poor branding thing as well. That in the same way Apple put Apple TV on everything, Microsoft have just gone around slapping Copilot on everything. And understanding the difference between the Copilot cloud services and a Copilot PC or a Copilot Plus PC, it's all a bit muddy, isn't it? I mean, you and
they've overused the brand, haven't they?
Yeah, they've very much, and it's a shame, because I think, 2 years, if we go back 2 years, you were saying Copilot was a really good brand. And now, what does it mean? It's in my Outlook toolbar. It's on my computer. What does it mean?
I always like the name of it. Copilot is to work with you. It's your, to do work with you. I think it's a good name. I just think they've now applied it to too many things. It's like Apple TV just means too many things. You got to be careful on the context.
I think this is a shame in its way, because I was quite excited about the Snapdragon computers, because they have and had the promise of bringing battery life and performance to Windows and Linux, desktops, whereas AMD and Intel chips are typically more power hungry. As a person who owns a framework laptop with an AMD chip in it, they're very much more power hungry than what.
Oh, really?
Oh my God, yes. A quick anecdote: I was playing Balatro the other day while I was on
Surprise.
Because what else is there? Not the most intensive game, I'm sure you'll agree. It's just a little card game that runs very easily. I had the laptop plugged in and the battery was draining while plugged in.
It reminds me of running an iOS beta at some point.
And I was a bit like, oh, wow, that I haven't seen that in quite some time. It was on a high-capacity charger, and it was not rapidly, but it was ticking down from 80. So
you wouldn't expect it, though, to deplete at all if plugged in.
No, not at all. Fair enough, I remember early Microsoft Surface PCs with NVIDIA cards in them. They would deplete when plugged in, because the GPU would just overwhelm what the battery was capable of even plugged in. But then that's a big honking GPU running a Doom or a 3D flight simulator or something like that. This was a very simple, presumably Electron or Godot library game thing. Shouldn't be depleting a battery like that. It should be more than capable of running that. So I was a bit surprised by that. So all of that is to say that I think Snapdragon brought a lot of promise in the same way that the Apple M series chips brought a lot of promise to the Apple market, and Apple walked and chewed gum at the same time on that. They're amazing computers. All the software worked on them. The power efficiency is incredible, and you can easily get 10, 11, 12 hours battery out of them if you know what you're doing. And Windows generally, Intel and AMD don't allow you to do that. So it's a shame that businesses haven't done this. They need to kick the tires. But I also suspect this is out of a buying cycle. People bought PCs during COVID or towards the end of COVID, and this will happen inevitably in the next 2 or 3 years anyway.
I think so, but the price needs to come down. And like I say, corporations need to check their software is all going to function correctly. I think that's also a bit of a hangover.
Yeah, and increasingly I think the software is getting there, but I don't know what Microsoft's emulation plan is for this. It all feels a bit half-hearted sometimes.
Yep, no, agreed with you.
Should we do a car corner?
Car corner, yes.
It's your favourite bit, I think, whenever we have a car corner.
I do, but I'm having a bit of a moment, I think, where I'm looking at older cars, not newer cars.
Yeah, don't start me talking about motorbikes because Charlie and Ewan have done a real number on me. This is talking about Ford in this case. Apparently Ford are planning a Model T moment. So obviously Ford produced the Model T, not the first car, but the first mass-produced car, just to be really clear about that, on August the 11th. So this is something that we're looking forward to as much as anything else. But apparently this is going to be a breakthrough announcement about its EV strategy. So what does this mean? I'm really quite curious about this.
Yeah, it's quite a thing to set the expectation. You know, Ford obviously massively known for, getting everybody off the horse, shall we say. And we talked about horses earlier. And it's quite a thing to say it. So they better come out the gates swinging with this because you've set the bar so high. Are they going to live up to that expectation?
Particularly, I think Ford have been quite disappointing in the EV market up to this stage. The Mustang Mach-E is a very average car. The Ford Explorer in the UK is the VW ID platform underneath the skin. So it's an ID3 or an ID4 with the same battery and powertrain that you'd get in that. So that's not even their car. There is the new Ford Capri that I don't even know what platform it runs on, but none of these are setting the world on fire. So they kind of need this because they've certainly not had a Tesla moment, have they?
No, I do think Ford need this. It's been really sad in a way to see Ford flounder. I don't know what it's like in America, but here in the UK, they've really floundered with EVs and having something competitive that looks appealing and then is practically appealing as well. And I just don't think they've had it, which is a shame.
Oh, it's a real shame as well because let's talk about the market we know. We know the UK market. The Ford F-150 isn't a thing, in this country. However, for a long time, the Focus was, the Sierra was, the Capri was. There's some really big Ford names that had XR2Is, XR3Is with Escorts, things like that. Mondeo STs, Focus STs. There's a lot of history in good Ford vehicles in the United Kingdom. And the EV has left that cold, and I feel like they've spoiled the Capri brand by sticking it on yet another boxy 4x4 SUV looking thing.
Yeah, normally when people bring those brand names back, it's because they've made it look like a model that it was. They've obviously made it bigger. Like the Renault 5's come back and actually looks pretty cool, and it looks like a Renault 5. Whereas Ford have just taken the name and stuck it on something rather than design it around the heritage of that name. And modernise it. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Renault 5, and I think Renault are doing an interesting thing by bringing that back. And the same with the Renault 4. I think it's a quirky little EV that harks back to a good historical property that they had. And just as we're talking about it, and I feel I've got to, the new Alpine A220, which is obviously using that same underpinnings as the Renault 5 and the Renault 4, is a fantastic looking little car. And as a sporty arm of Renault, which is what Alpine is, I think that looks fantastic.
I've got some qualms about Alpine.
I remember when they saw them on Top Gear, they went on fire.
No. I really like the Alpine A110. I think it's beautiful. My qualm is I can buy a Renault with an Alpine badge on it, and I can buy a Renault 5, and I can buy an Alpine equivalent Renault 5. It just feels really muddy. I thought they were having Alpine as their sporty brand, their executive brand, their supercar brand, but they just seem to be blurring it with their everyday brand. I thought they were going to keep them very separate, but they seem to have just smushed them together a little bit, and I'm a bit disappointed.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. But then if you look at, DS is another brand that Citroen have, that's sort of their part.
That's also really weird. I don't really understand.
That's really muddy. If you look at Lexuses these days, they're basically just Toyotas. There's no sort of real distinction between a Lexus and Toyota for me anymore. I think this is just the way. It's really hard, particularly on an electric car platform, to make them look that distinctive.
BMW and Mini. They've nailed it. The brands are together, but they're very separate cars.
They are very separate cars, but that's because Mini has a very distinct shape and design, I think, which they've managed to
kept
to.
it. They've kept that, and they sell them at the same location. Usually, you've got a BMW garage and a Mini garage. This is here in the UK, but they've kept them separately. You don't get a BMW with a Mini badge on it or a Mini with a BMW badge on it because it's borrowed bits or it's the sportier one. And I think they've done a really good job of that. And they've kept their brands separate, and they're tackling two different bits of the market. Whereas Alpine, in my eyes, have blurred the lines a little bit. Which are they trying to improve the Renault brand or devalue the Alpine brand? I don't know the answer.
The thing is, I don't think Alpine has a much cachet outside of France. Possibly, I think gearheads.
Oh, I don't know. The A110, it's a fantastic car.
There's an A220 as well, isn't there? But it's. I don't think it's got the cachet of a Renault 5.
True.
If you were to ask the average person on the street, name 3 Alpine cars, they couldn't.
There haven't been that many, I don't think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
I don't think they've got a lot to lose with that. They may as well play with the badges and see if they can sell some cars.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe that's what they're trying.
I think it's worth a punt. But yeah, so we got slightly off topic there. But let's see what happens on August the 11th for Ford. But I don't hold a lot of hope.
No, like I say, I think I'm worried they've pegged this as a really big event. And maybe they have got something really big, but I'm worried that it's going to underdeliver.
Something else I'm worried is going to underdeliver, and not that, because that's our show notes, is Lyft and Baidu bringing robo-taxis, driverless vehicles to the UK and Germany. What do you think of this?
Oh, no. I'm not ready for this at all. You're talking to a person that's never used an Uber, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. But this scares me. Does it scare you?
Well, I watched them when I was in San Francisco buzzing around, and they just look slightly. It was fairly normalized. I got to say, nobody bats an eyelid to them, and I know we've had the stories here about them. People being chucked into traffic and being trapped under them, and all the rest of it. I think in some cities they'll probably do okay. Like Glasgow is an example of a city where this could go all right because the majority of the urban part of the city is big square streets like an American city. They're currently filming the new Spider-Man movie in Glasgow. It looks so much like an American city. And I know they filmed World War Z there as well. But if you were to think of, I don't know, York is winding streets. It's very, old-fashioned. It's not. There's a lot more to cope with in a city like York or in a little village than there would be in a large American urban area. San Francisco has very, very wide streets.
And more grid-like rather than curvy, probably good white lines. This just worries me, but maybe I'm just a curmudgeon.
I think the thing that worries me most is that governmental policy at the moment is just to jump enthusiastically on anything that's got an AI badge on it or seems high-tech without thinking of the consequences. See earlier discussion about Online Safety Act. There's issues, I think, with aggressively embracing this technology. There's no... I suppose my fundamental thing with it is there a real demand for this? I'll have an Uber, I'll have a taxi driver, I'll drive myself. I don't need an autonomous vehicle.
Is it tech and is this a way of having taxis without people and cutting costs? Or is the AI required to power this just as expensive as having people to do it? I don't know. This isn't a problem I have right now.
No. I guess we'll see what happens. So it's just another thing for us to keep attention on. Should we do some media?
Let's do it.
So why don't you tell us about a new thing from the writer of Slow Horses?
We have touched on this. So the writer of Slow Horses also has another set of books. There's only 4, and it's Down Cemetery Road, which is the first book in the series. I'm actually reading book 3 at the moment. And there's a new TV show coming to Apple TV Plus. And so this is the author, Mick Herron. I should have covered that off first of all. But it's going to star Emma Thompson. She's got the lead role in it. And the book's quite good, actually. They were written back in, I think, around 2000, give or take. So, 20 odd years old now, probably. And so I'm curious to know how they're going to do this. Is it going to be set back in 2000 or is it going to be set in current times? Obviously the world hasn't changed hugely in the last 25 years, but it's going to be interesting just to see how they can do it. But it's going to be super interesting, but I'm really glad they're doing it. The books are very good. They're very different to Slow Horses. Just the whole premise and setup's quite different, and it's 2 main characters, as you can see here. You've got Emma Thompson and I'm going to forget the other lady's name, Ruth Wilson.
Ruth Wilson.
So I'm quite looking forward to this because it's quite different. The Slow Horses cast is quite male dominated, I'm going to say, whereas this will be very female dominated. So I think it's going to be a very different take, but it's going to be really good. Mick Herron's fantastic. So yeah, looking forward to this.
Well, Emma Thompson's fantastic as well, so I'm with you on this. I think I'm quite looking forward to this. I haven't seen much that Emma Thompson's bad in, so and well done her for sort of getting a leading role in something like this too.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic, isn't it? And Ruth Wilson's going to be good. If I remember, was it the Book of Dust? I think she was in. That's the I can't think of the gentleman's name who wrote Book of Dust now. I was going to say Michael
Morpurgo.
Morpurgo. Have I got the name right?
I don't know. I've never read the book.
No, it's Philip Pullman. Apologies.
Oh, right. So yeah, you're speaking. You mean the Amber Spyglass novels?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was in that, and she was fantastic. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, this is going to be an insta watch for me. Fantastic.
Yep, fair. I'm probably with you. Severance season 2.
So I've just put a couple of links into things I've been watching. I haven't finished season 2 yet, but it's really hotting up. I'm about 2/3 of the way through, if not 3/4. It's so well done. You and I were talking about it at the top of the show. It's amazing. The look, the feel. It's one of the best shot TV series I've ever seen / film. I think the look. There's something about the Severance look, and I love it. I love the kind of retro tech, modern environment, offices. It's just cool. I love the look of it, and slightly Nordic. It's just all fantastic. I think the way they do all of it. But yeah, really, really, really good. I'm surprised looking here though at Rotten Tomatoes that the viewer score is a bit low compared to the reviewer. Maybe that's because it's 10 episodes and it can feel a little stretched out. I don't know, but I think it's fantastic. It's really well done. In a way, I'm glad I've saved it and I'm working my way through it when the time was right.
I think it's a terrific show. It's one of the best things on Apple TV. To me, it's actually better than Ted Lasso. I love the atmosphere of it. It's not just the look of the thing. I mean, it's a different show to Ted Lasso. It's not trying to be...
Yeah, that's where my head was going. I was like, I'm not sure I can compare this to Ted Lasso. My brain can't compute.
But if I recommend 5 shows that people should subscribe to Apple TV Plus for, Severance is the first thing I say. Because it
depends on who you're talking to, I think.
Fair. Yeah, so I like the look of Severance. I like the atmosphere of Severance. I think the acting is fantastic. I don't think you've got to the scene where the innie meets the outie, but it's one of them.
Don't ruin it.
No, I'm not ruining anything. An innie meets an outie, that tells you nothing. It is phenomenal, and Oscars are deserved.
Yeah,
Emmys, I should say, not Oscars.
Emmys. No, it's fantastic. So well done. Love it. Anyway, I hope they don't do too many seasons and spoil it. Because you do see that with some TV shows, they go too far with it. So I hope they get that right. But no, fantastic.
I think
I'd recommend to anybody.
I agree. They're too slow filming it to have many, many seasons. Iron Man.
So yeah, Iron Man 1. You recommended this. I was talking about my son wanting to watch some more adult films, I guess. He's a young teenager. And so we watched Iron Man and he really enjoyed it. And we're currently watching Iron Man 2. But Iron Man 1 is 2008, so it's aged a little. Some of the graphics are a little questionable, but it scored 91% on the popcorn meter, which is pretty good. For me, it's probably more like a 75% film, but I'm not a huge Marvel fan, so it's good.
I thoroughly enjoyed Iron Man. I think it sort of really set the store out for what a good Marvel movie could be. I mean, it has got the traditional, and you'll see this as you work your way through them, it has got the traditional robots, sort of CGI things beating themselves up at the end, which a lot of Marvel films suffer from. But I think it's good characterization. I think Robert Downey Jr. is perfect in the role. I thought Jeff Bridges was as good as the bad guy. I'd agree with the audience score. I thought this was a real breath of fresh air at the time, and a proper fun superhero movie that did the characters justice.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair at the time. I think 17, so I was trying to do mathematics, 17 years on, the score for me would have gone down slightly.
Fair. I mean, the last thing I'll say is that Marvel had sold the crown jewels. They'd sold all the stuff off to Sony. The X-Men had gone to Sony. Spider-Man had gone to Sony. They didn't have any popular superheroes really left to work with to try and build a universe. And what they did with Iron Man, with a very B-tier superhero Iron Man, was phenomenal, and you got to respect.
I completely agree with you there. It's fantastic. Like, if you think, and I was trying to explain this to my kid, it's like this was before Marvel got massive. It's hard to imagine that time now looking back at it, because Marvel's huge, but back then Marvel wasn't really on it as its own entity.
Yeah, they made comics.
Yeah, basically they did printed matter, not cinema.
Something I've never ever watched but know about, King of the Hill.
So weirdly, I was in Disney Plus and King of the Hill came up and it's back for a whole new season and I was mind blowing. I haven't watched all the seasons of King of the Hill, but I just gave it a go. And actually they've done a really good job with King of the Hill, bringing it back for this 13th season, because they kind of acknowledged the fact it's been away for a long time and they just dealt with it really well. And I just thought it was quite cool. And so I probably won't watch the whole thing, but I just watched the first episode and actually just quite enjoyed it for a bit of nostalgia. And I thought it was relevant as we talked about Futurama the other week, where that's still going and I hadn't realised it. And I definitely hadn't realised there was 13 seasons of King of the Hill. So there you go.
Why did I think this was Mike Judge, like Beavis and Butthead? The
It
King
is.
of the Hill? It is it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Mike Judge is great. Idiocracy and Office Space, two of the greatest movies of all time. I should probably have given it a go because I like his sense of humour. But there you go, King of the Hill back for season 13.
Yeah, it's quite slow going. It's not for everybody. But I just quite enjoyed what they did with it. I thought it was quite good.
Games?
Let's do games.
First up, Plants vs. Zombies is getting an HD remaster. I find the picture for this very disturbing from the Engadget article. I'm not sure what's going on with Crazy Dave, who lives next door to you. But I love Plants vs. Zombies. I vividly remember getting my first iPad in whenever that was, 2009, would it have been? 2008? And one of the few games that came for it on day one was Plants vs. Zombies. It's an absolutely terrific game. So it's coming back to Switch and Switch 2 on October 23rd, and this will be an insta-buy for me because I love Plants vs. Zombies.
Are you going to buy on Switch too?
I might.
It's kind of one of those games that for me, I used to play it on my mobile a lot, and my iPad may be, but I was just thinking, would I play it on the Switch? I don't know.
It's funny when Of Nothing coming back from Morocco, both kids had downloaded this to their phones and were sitting playing it in the airport, the original blown up iPhone version, before this news came out. So it's clearly still got some cachet even with the younger generation.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Second from me, and I'm quite excited about this, is I'm a huge fan of the Battlefield series. Obviously, I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty. I've talked about it on this, but Battlefield will remain the game that I love when it comes to a first-person shooter. There's been a lot of worry that the company were going to be able to release a quality version again, because 2142 was badly received, and Battlefield 5 before it was badly received. However, they had the closed beta with a bunch of YouTubers last weekend. They flew a lot of people out to San Francisco. Watching some of that, it looks Battlefield seems to be back where it should be. It's not without its problems, but for a fairly early beta, it's going well. And if you're a PlayStation 5 owner, you can download and preload the open beta, which will be allowed around this weekend. So if you want to have a quick go on your PlayStation or your Xbox or your PC, go and download it now and crack on at the weekend, because it's going to be great.
It does. Some of the screen grabs you've just shown there actually look pretty cool.
Yeah, there's some nice functionality within it. The destructibility of the scenery and things like that they've really brought back from earlier Battlefield games, where if there's a squad hiding in a house, you can roll up a tank, you can take out the building and drop the whole house on the squad, and stuff like that's really cool.
Okay. Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, I'm rubbish at these games, but it does look very good.
But that there, for the YouTubers, is actual gameplay footage. That's what it looks like when you're playing the game. That's not a cutscene.
I was about to ask you that. I mean, it looks amazing.
Yeah. So maybe check it out.
Okay. Well, I've just added one game just as a slightly different game to Battlefield. I just dropped in Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I bought today, downloaded. I've played a little bit of it. Largely because based upon the reviews, it did amazing on the reviews, and it's meant to be a lot like Super Mario Odyssey, which I loved, and so I thought I'd give it a go. And it's Nintendo doing Nintendo with Donkey Kong. And so far it's okay, but I need to get into a bit more. I've only played like the first opening bit, but I will report back. But I'm quite looking forward to it. I haven't played a Nintendo game all the way through for a while, so yeah, looking forward to this.
Excellent. Are you playing it mobile or in front of your telly?
Well, my children were out today, so I managed to get the telly for a change. But I'm sure now they're back home, I will be back mobile. So I think it's a game I'm going to play both ways. But I was with the Pro Controller, and I do like the original Pro Controller that Nintendo did. Very good.
Fair enough. Main show?
Let's do it.
Very short. Not a lot to be said, really. So we have typically reported on Apple's quarterly earnings. We're going to do it again in as short a time as possible, just because I feel we've got to. So Apple reported its quarter 3 for 2025 earnings. They made $94 billion. Once again, Apple of all the money.
They didn't make it. They turned over.
Sorry. 94.0. Sorry, business guy. They turned over $94 billion in revenue, and that's up 10% on where they were.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, what an amount of money. Like, this is their worst quarter as well, because this is the quarter just before the holiday quarter, which is going to be massive because there'll be new iPhones in it and probably other devices and services. So for them to do 94 billion in the what is typically their worst quarter is insane. They're just firing on, they've got all the money, which makes me angry when we talk about them not wanting to let go of some income because they can afford it.
And sticking advertising in your news app.
But they're clearly going to be £100 billion quarter business at some point soon. You can see it now.
Yeah. So just to back off on what I said a minute ago, they actually earned 23.43 billion. I think it's fair to say, Chris, I've read that one right this time.
Yep, that's their income. 23.4 billion profit, which is fantastic.
Which is pretty good. iPhone 44 billion, Mac 8 billion, iPad 6.58 billion, wearables 7.4, and services revenue 27.42 billion.
The services is taking chunks out as the months go on. It's getting towards, you can have at some point you can just have iPhone and services, and everything else is in the other category. You can see that's where we're going to end up.
Yeah, so as you quite rightly pointed out, this isn't one of their greatest quarters. We'd expect the next quarter to be, because we'll have a new iPhone in the next quarter as well, and possibly more than one new iPhone.
Yeah, and obviously it's the run up to Christmas. You can just see it now.
Yep. Their profit remains high, as we've already talked about, but not to go into too much of the various categories. All the categories are either stable or up, with the exception of two, I think is what we saw. So iPad is down year over year, so there's a 10% drop in iPad, which is, are we expecting that? There hasn't been new iPads or anything recently. There was the M4, I think was the last one.
M4s were a year ago. There was the M3 Air not that long ago, but it was a minor, bump. It wasn't anything major. So it's been a quiet year for the iPad thus far. So it's not a big shock, is it?
10% is a reasonable bump. I suspect iPad OS 26 is going to help this a little bit. People can see it's a computer, but I guess we'll see.
The only thing I'd say on that iPad OS 26 is they're now making all old iPads or a lot of old iPads more useful. So actually, is this going to delay the upgrade? Or actually, you're going to get the new functionality and it'd be a bit slow, and therefore will that drive you to upgrade? I don't know the answer there.
That's what I was thinking more than anything else. Okay. I mean, I think you tried it on an iPad mini and didn't have a great experience, right?
Yeah, not the current iPad mini, the previous gen. So the first one that they did without the home button. And I'm probably going to sell that iPad soon, in the view that I will get a new one when they come out, because I think it's just slightly too slow. And I will try it with the update today and see if that's any quicker.
Fair enough. But that's a driver of people who like iPads are going to get on with that, and they're going to want something better. Mac revenue is stable, or actually up slightly, 14%. Wearables are a problem in the sense that as you look at this, even though there's the decent revenue on them, their year on year has been consistently down since quarter four last year. Minus 3%, minus 3%, minus 5%. I don't have my glasses on, so if I'm reading this out incorrectly, I'm sorry. And then minus 9% for this quarter.
So this is wearables, home and accessories. Now, obviously, they're not really doing a huge amount in the HomePod space over the last couple of years, or with the Apple TV. Now, there may be a new Apple TV coming. But I think that with the AirPods, they keep bringing new functionality to the old AirPods. So I don't think people are upgrading AirPods as much as they maybe are other things, because they last quite well. It's probably only when the batteries go that they're upgrading. Also, we haven't had a new set of AirPods Pro for a while, and they're coming in they're usually on sale on Amazon, aren't they, in this country? So I think that whole category is largely AirPods, with an occasional HomePod and an occasional Apple TV being purchased. But the Apple TV and the HomePods are so out of date at this point.
What about watches?
Ooh.
So watches, I think...
I completely forgot the biggest part of that category.
Yeah, watches are going to be the biggest part. I see lots of people with Apple Watches on the wrist. In Morocco, I noticed even the average Moroccan on the street is wearing a Samsung or an Apple Watch wearable. It's just around the world now.
Smartwatches are so prevalent, aren't they?
Yeah. How often people upgrade them is, of course, another thing. I mean, I've been wearing an Apple Watch Ultra for the last 3 years, and frankly, I'm getting to a position like you are where I think I might go back to a windy-up watch, frankly, because I know. I get everything I need out of it pretty much from my phone. I know I do what my steps are now, or what my cycling is, that I don't need it. If I really wanted to get into my fitness, I'd probably buy a Garmin or something. It's adequate, but it's not great. So it's kind of a muchness product, and unless they release something really interesting in terms of sensors or something like that, there's no compelling reason to upgrade your Apple Watch. Yeah.
Completely agree with you. I think the Apple Watch, though, over the last 2 to 3 years, they've not really done much with it, have they? There's not been any new sensors. There's been a slight change last year with the design. But even that, you've got to look twice to, it's a bit like looking at Porsche 911 as people go, I don't know which model's which. It's only if you really know, you know. And I think the Apple Watch has gone that way.
It's boring. And in America, the fact that the pulse ox sensor, the oxygen saturation, is disabled as well. That's probably a feature of this too. So you've got a stagnant Apple Watch, despite slightly newer designs. You've got good enough AirPods Pro. You've got rubbishy, I would go as far as to say rubbishy AirPods Max, because their upgrade wasn't good enough for that product and it remains too expensive. The HomePod is a bit of a disaster that hasn't really,
It's not really moved forward.
Not moved forward, whereas competitors have. The Apple TV Plus, Apple TV, not Plus, is good enough. The current 4K version is good enough.
But it's 2 years old, so if you bought one, you've probably already bought one.
But I'm not screaming for another one. It's not like I've got an 8K TV that I need to do that on. And let's face it, I can't even get my subtitles on the BBC if I want them. So all of the products in this lineup have issues, with the exception of the AirPods Pro. And they're old.
Or regular AirPods. So this is probably going to be a big growth area, I think, because Apple are meant to be bringing out a new TV. There's maybe a new HomePod, with the screen coming at some point. There's maybe new AirPods Pro coming. I think this will look different in the next set of results.
But if you look at this category, there's more down quarters than up quarters.
Yep. There's one thing we should also note, though, with the Macs and iPads. Did people, and maybe iPhones, in America rush out and buy some equipment because of tariffs? I don't know if we know the answer. Apple probably didn't tell us, but that is something that may have helped keep the quarter pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely a possibility. And if there is an uptick in all of these products, it's very small.
Yeah, agreed.
Then the last product range that's probably worth talking about is services, which only ever goes up.
I don't know. In Q4 22, it did dip a little bit.
So that was 3 years ago.
It's mad, isn't it? But if you look at it, if you took the average, it's just a beautiful slope going nicely up. And this is what I mean, the way it's going, it's still half what the iPhone is. But if they carry on this trajectory, it's going to end up catching it, and Apple will become the iPhone and services company.
Never had a negative quarter, though.
No, that's true. Always growing. So it is impressive. And they keep adding more. So it's going to be interesting as app stores around the world can do more of their own thing. Is this actually going to hit their bottom line? Probably not, because they've just bringing more services on. Like they've just done Apple Care One in America, where that's now becoming a service. You can get all your devices in it. They're doing really well in that space. So you can just see them adding more and more services on the top. These are accessories to go with your iPhone. It's a no-brainer for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And again, they've got all the money. App of the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
So my app of the week this week is from my Raspberry Pi. It's called Raspberry Pi Connect. If you've got a Raspberry Pi sitting in a cupboard somewhere and you ever want to connect to it for whatever reasons, if you run a little command line prompt on it and install a service that comes from the Raspberry Pi store and then authenticate it, you can connect to that Raspberry Pi, be it the desktop version or be it the shell-based version, the terminal-based version, from anywhere in the world. And I just think it's really cool, and I thoroughly enjoyed using it while I've been out and about.
Wow, okay. That's kind of cool.
It's extremely cool. It's like a Tailscale or a VPN where you don't actually need to configure anything, then run one command on your Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, no, I quite like the sound of that. Sounds pretty neat. I am enjoying Tailscale, I must say.
It's a great service. And the reason I did this is in my home setup, I've been using Pi-hole for a very long time. I thought I'll try the alternative. The alternative is a thing called AdGuard free home version or something. So I installed that on Raspberry Pi lying around, and I just wanted to see how it was doing in terms of ad blocking and all the rest of it. And it worked really well. I changed my router to point at it rather than my Pi-hole. I didn't switch off the Pi-hole because this enables you to do that kind of stuff, and it's doing a really good job of ad blocking. And as you've been looking at my my screen all night, Chris, I'm sure you've seen less adverts than we've had recently. So
I did notice there was a thing saying, where adverts should be saying connect. I was worried you'd been contacting my son somehow because he was on about setting up a Raspberry Pi with Pi-hole on it to play with. And I actually thought it was a good idea because he's learning, it's his It's a good way for him to learn. He's just taken a computer to pieces today. He now wants to set up a NAS as well with Open NAS. So I don't know where he's getting all this from, but I've been just trying to just encourage him a little bit, even though I don't know a huge amount about it, because I think it's healthy, isn't it? Play with this stuff. You will learn some basics of computing and networking.
You absolutely will. And this Raspberry Pi is also is running Docker, so it's not just pure on there. I've got a Raspberry Pi running Raspberry Pi OS with Docker, and then the AdGuard is inside of that. So there's a lot of skills to learn within there.
Yeah, and he's got to start somewhere.
And TrueNAS is what you want, or Open Media Vault. They're the two open source.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't put anything else on there but one of them.
Right. I'm not sure what he's going to put on a NAS because he hasn't really got any files, but I was just more happy that he just plays with stuff.
And I've talked about this before, but very quickly because we're going long. TrueNAS runs ZFS, so you actually get a proper snapshotting file system if you run TrueNAS as well. So
that's quite cool.
It is very cool. Needs a lot of RAM though.
Oh, okay.
Thing of the week.
So I've just put Wix in. I don't know if you heard of Wix. It's a bit like Squarespace. I was helping a friend out with their website. It's actually pretty cool. What I have learned though is the pros and cons of a platform like Wix is people can end up making their website look rubbish because they don't put the right fonts on it and they don't resize the imagery or get it quite right. But then equally what you do learn is it's amazing at making a mobile friendly version and a desktop friendly version. It's very clever, and I think it's quite cool. And once I started getting my head around where to go for everything, it's very clever how you set up forms and have workflow and things. It's just a product I hadn't really played with before, but just thought I'd mention it. It's great if you're going to build your own website. Yep,
fair enough. I think, for those of us that can't, either code a website from scratch, mine would look very amateur these days, or fire up WordPress or one of the other open source alternatives. Something like this is a good option if you haven't got a lot of time and you want a lot of these things just drag and drop and put in. We've chosen Squarespace for our website just because it's easier to do that, but Wix is a perfectly valid alternative.
Yeah, I thought it was quite cool.
Yep. I think we can call that a show, Chris.
I think so. So if everyone wants to get in contact with us, Rod is at g5maniac@mastodon.scot. He's also on Blue Sky, where he's at g5maniac.bsky.social. I'm on Mastodon and I'm at _CJP at mastodon.social. You can watch on YouTube by going to our website and clicking on the YouTube link, or you can drop us an email at wakefromsleep@protonmail.com.
Talk to you next week, Chris.
Cheers, Rod.